I believe that I and you are here to live the greatest life of all time. And I would say that, and I'd be like, is that really true? Am I allowed to live the greatest life of all time? Didn't Leonardo da Vinci do that? Or am I allowed to do it? Or isn't Tom Cruise already taking that spot? Or, no, you can do it too. The greatest life of all time. All right, cool. Hi, thanks guys for coming and gals. My name's John Keegan and come from New York, and I'm excited to be here. It's so beautiful. And I want to, the main thing that I do day in and day out is I help people connect to other people. And people often start with me when they feel like they're not connecting with other people, and they want to have dates or they want to have relationships. And so they're kind of thinking, I don't have this other person. I'm not having sex, I'm not having love, or I am, but it's not with the right people. I'm feeling disconnected from the right people. So they come to me with that starting point, and then, I take them on a journey. And the journey becomes more about your relationship with yourself. So it goes a lot deeper. Because when we think of dating, we often think of, like, in pop culture, it's kind of like, silly or fun or almost made meaningless, when really it's at the core of really the whole thing that we're all here to do, which is connect all the time. Connect with ourselves, connect with the world around us, and the people in it, and even connect, with higher powers. So it's all about connection. So they come to me with that sort of, sort of layer need of, I just need a date, I need a, and then we go into what we're going to go in today, which is about really connecting to three things and the path to do that. Connecting to yourself, connecting to the world around you, and connecting to the people in it, friends and lovers. And the path to that is really all starts with your vision. And a lot of us kind of run around doing things all day, like I'm going to do these 20 things and that's going to create the life I want. Even if I do it and I'm completely stressed out, even if I do it and I'm completely miserable the whole time, as long as I did all those sit-ups and push-ups, as long as I did all of these things, then I'm going to create this life I want. And then along the way, as we're doing that, we often feel miserable in the hopes that in the future we'll have this amazing life. But really, all day, and you guys can tell me if you've ever been like this, all day we're practicing being unhappy or this dream of that in the future there's some happiness for me, because then by doing all these things I'll have this thing, and whenever, or this thing or this situation or circumstance, and when I have this thing or the situation or the circumstance, then I'll be happy. As if it's like, that's it, like here's that magic number, whatever the zero is in my bank account that makes me feel happy, like I just need one more zero and then I'm free. Or I just need the greatest boyfriend or the greatest girlfriend of all time, or a lot of guys often think I just need to have sex with many women and then I'll be happy. Whatever the story is. But the whole time the practice, the daily practice is one of not being happy, one of not being fulfilled, one of not being content. So you're creating a way about you, or a frequency. You're creating the way you are is chasing the future. Has anyone ever felt this way or done this? Yeah, I do it every day. I got to fight it every day in every way, and just remind myself and practice being here with you guys, here in this now, and appreciate that, because we know, because all of us have gotten things that we didn't used to have, circumstances and events, and yet we keep trying to get over here. Like, all right, yeah, that was good. Like, I got this great girlfriend. Now what? Now where do I go? And now we just keep going instead of like stopping and enjoying having what we have. So a big thing we'll talk about today is having what you have, like really letting yourself have it without fear, and just revel in that, because ultimately whatever you have will change. everything we have is going to change. So but having these practices of appreciating where you are, having these practices of really enjoying what you have, then that allows you to, no matter the change that it comes, you get to step into that change and enjoy having what you're having now. And some people maybe have been filled with regret, if you've ever had that, like where you keep talking about, well, back in the day, I used to have it all. Or like people saying, like in college, I was, the man, or like my life was in college, or as I think you guys say university maybe, but or back in, like I had a client once, and I was trying to get him to tune in with his interests and passions, which is really the key to a good life, and so that he could talk about them and connect with other people through conversation about his interests and passions. And he was probably about mid-40s, and he said, he kept saying, well, I used to play the guitar, like in my 20s, I was like, guitar god. I was playing the guitar all the time, and I'm like, yeah, well, what are you doing now, right? And that's all he kept talking about. Well, I used to be that, I used to have that, I used to have a ponytail, I used to, all these things, and so he stopped being in tune with his interests and passions. And he stopped, he was either, his glory was in the past, and he was hoping for some glory in the future, but he had lost track of just enjoying the now. And I imagine even when he was a guitar god, he wasn't really enjoying the now that much, He was probably kept thinking about the future, but then he at least had those good stories to tell and a couple good photos of that. So really, the name of this speech is Stepping into the Unknown in the Name of Love. In the name of love of ourselves, in the name of love of this life that we're having, and in the name of love of other people, and really connecting. So stepping into the unknown is a daily thing. So if we're out being social, practicing being social with strangers, for many of us it's a scary endeavor because we don't know who's on the other side of those eyes, who's behind those eyes, who's on the other, what's that person going to do, especially when it's the opposite sex, So if it's a man approaching a woman, and saying hi in some way, he doesn't know who she is on there, and he could get rejected, he could get bad vibes, he could look like a fool in front of everyone. And if it's a woman also taking these same risks in her own way, it's the same idea. She could be rejected because she could not be accepted, she could be, feel not attractive, she could feel annihilated, she could, so we just don't take these risks. And so the unknown is just what's on the other side of that. And it's an emotional risk, whether it's just looking someone in the eye and making eye contact and looking at them. That's a risk, like I'm being vulnerable. Now you can see in my eyes, and now you know all my thoughts and my feelings, and there's something, and you might not like them. You might see something you don't like, and now I'm not likable. It's better that I just watch Netflix, So, yeah. So, has anyone ever been afraid to take that risk just to say hi to new peeps, Yeah. Yeah, or just, not even just to say hi, but to just look at someone and just like let them know, hey, I'm interested in you, or whatever, right? This risk, because why? Because what are some of the main fears we might have? And one is that I'm not good enough for some reason. I'm not big enough. I'm not rich enough. I don't have an 8-pack. I don't have, I haven't done enough squats this week, whatever it was. Or it's not the right time. Now's not the right time because I didn't have the right amount of coffee, or the person is in a weird situation, or I don't have my best friend with me who always gets me going. I didn't drink enough alcohol. There's always a reason not to do it. Or, oh, you know what? Actually, that person is kind of weird looking after all, or they probably suck in bed, or whatever, So these are kind of things we do. We in our minds, our analytical minds, we really just we always start with ourselves, and then we tear apart. We like, hey, I'm not good enough. This moment's not good enough, and then ultimately we tear apart our very desire, or the very person we want to meet, because we just become disconnected. And we're getting to the root of what stops us from connection, which is the analytical mind. the hyper-analytical mind. And there's no way to live in this world now, really, and not get sucked into like an analytical framework, because, you know, even if you're an actor, you still have your iPhone with 60 apps and this and that, and you're on this thing and you're tuned in. There's just no way out. So, and then some of us do really technical jobs or banking jobs, and that really just lends itself to constantly in an analysis, or lawyers, constant analysis and constant shooting reasons and holes into why not to do things, because that's what those jobs require for safety and security. But then when we come to really loving ourselves, loving the world around us, and loving the people in it and making new connections, that just doesn't work at all. It actually kills it, kills the vibes, keeps you stuck. And so it's actually a whole other way of being we need to learn. So a lot of us don't know that way of being because we're all in our heads all day, every day, thinking about those things I just said, and thinking that our mind is who we are, is the big power. So we get stuck in our minds. Does anyone ever get stuck in their minds? You know, like the prison in your mind, like back here, behind enemy lines. And then sometimes we'll go about an endeavor of finding love or connecting with new people, like with a Gary Vaynerchuk mindset, if you guys know who that is. Like, I'm going to crush it, I'm going to kill it, because I kill it in everything. But then when I do it, then when I come to meet new people, crushing it and killing it doesn't work. It makes so you may go up and, you know, fraternize with everybody in here, and everyone here might hate you. You know, this guy's got this girl's got bad vibes. It's just like trying to crush it all the time. Or you're going on dates, and everything's about crushing it. And so that's two of the things I find. I find there's a lot of people who leave their analytical mind, and then they go in it with the crush it mindset, the workout mindset. I'm going to get ripped, that's it. And then they're missing the human aspect of really connecting with people. So get you going, but it doesn't get it. There's a softness and a vulnerability and a lightness and an easiness, and it's a risk. It's an ultimate risk that you got to get comfortable with. And that's what it takes to connect. Vulnerability. All right? Okay. Yeah. So when you have beliefs that are good about yourself, you have positive stories. And a lot of us have these stories about ourselves that suck. And even if we consciously try not to have them, they're just kind of on autopilot spinning, like, I'm not good enough, I'm not this, I'm creepy, I'm bothering, I'm this, I'm, every time I try, then I quit 2 days later, that's the story, you know, whatever it is. Does anyone have limiting stories about themselves and their ability to be great? Yeah, because, you know, along my way as a coach, and I'll give you a little more background about me, but along my way as a coach, I started to really tap into more and more powerful mindsets. And then I was like saying things were coming out of my own mouth, and I was like, wow, I said that, you know. And then I started to really embody them more and more, and I still work on that. But one of the things is, I believe that I and you are here to live the greatest life of all time. And I would say that, and I'd be like, is that really true? Am I allowed to live the greatest life of all time? Didn't Leonardo da Vinci do that? Or am I allowed to do it? Or isn't Tom Cruise already taking that spot? Or, you know, no, you can do it too. The greatest life of all time. Of all time. And this time that we live in, really, like, you can really pretty much be anywhere, do anything, have anything. It's all like here at our disposal. And imagine seeing life from that framework. What am I going to do to live the greatest life of all time? Not as an Instagram story, not so everyone says, oh my God, there he is climbing a mountain. Look at him, he's living the greatest life of all time. Not so that you think I'm living the greatest life of all time, but so that I think I'm living the greatest life of all time. So I'm enjoying this moment so deeply, so profoundly, that Brad Pitt couldn't be having a better moment. I mean, how could he, if I'm enjoying it so thoroughly and profoundly and appreciating where I'm at and with whom I'm with? How could anyone be having a better moment? And someone else in maybe a more better circumstance or more, you know, like in the world circumstance like that, they can be in it and be completely miserable. And is that person having a better moment than me? Is he having a better, living the greatest life of all time because he or she's in a great circumstance? If they're walking around you know, deprecating, walking around complaining about what is, if all their relationships are based on money and power, I would say no. So, but maybe you want to be in that circumstance or some circumstance you're not in. I really know that the path to that is by loving and accepting and appreciating yourself. So it can sound hokey, and it even sounds easy when you say it, but that's really the hard work we have to do every day. How can I get to that place? And you can get to it like if I meditated this morning for 20 minutes. Okay, I got there. But then maybe I was crossing the street and somebody almost ran me over, and I'm like, you know, fuck you, and now I'm out of it again. Or I had a fight with someone I'm close to, and now I'm out of it. Or I try to do a task that I want to do, and then I'm like, fuck it, I'm a loser, I can't do this task, I can't, you know, and then I'm back out of it. Has anyone ever been in all this? Yeah, because I always think that days aren't divided by days and nights, you know, our lives. A lot of times we'll say, I have a bad day, I had a good day. But really it's a moment-to-moment thing, especially when you live in a city, you really have more exposure to that kind of moment-to-moment life, you know, where you're like, all kinds of things can happen, like pretty things and ugly things, and all in just one moment at the same time even. So, so you really, it's a moment-by-moment choice, which allows us then to really relax more and more into the now, and appreciate the now, and understand that, and become masters of our own energy, and understanding that we're in control, of something, and we're in control of the choices we make, and how we, in the sense of how we choose to see the world, and how we choose to see ourselves, and how we choose to connect with others. These are things we're in control of, moment by moment by moment. And a lot of times we don't feel like we're in control of anything, and it's all just happening, and and I just don't connect, and I'm just disconnected, and I just don't have my girlfriend, and I just don't have this great thing that I want. I'm just not that person. I'm not that girl. I'm not that guy. And that kind of thinking leads you to be in that same circumstance over and over. So the belief and the story that you tell yourself, if you live here or wherever you live, you may have a story about who I am to the people around me, and you let the idea of those people's idea of you tell you how to act in every situation. Like, well, these people see me as the quiet, reserved person, so I'm going to, that's how they see me. And then some of us might travel to somewhere else, and then all of a sudden we find a moment of freedom where we're outside of this idea of how people see us, and then all of a sudden we feel like, oh man, I went on this trip, I was so high, it was incredible, I was like really me for a day or two or a week, and then you come back and you let the circumstance define you again, or your idea of what other people want of you define you again. And then you go into a quiet misery. So it's really about those stories that we have to look at and analyze and let go of every day. And the longer we've been alive, the more work you have to do to let go of it every day. And that's okay, but you let go of it every moment by moment, situation by situation, and you want to have more moments of the new you every day than less. But you just got to start with one, you know? So we start with one moment. Stories. So then you have stories about, like, the world, your outlook of the world. Like my uncle used to say to my cousin, he used to say, and my cousin's name was my name, John, and he would say, Johnny, you know, life is like a shit sandwich. Every day you wake up and you take another bite, right? So that was his relationship to the world. That's how he saw the world. That's how he went to work every day. That's how he raised his family. That's how he did it, you know, with that outlook. And that's pretty extreme, but a lot of us have some version of that, like, oh, life's a grind, another day, another dollar, same shit, different day, right? So that's your relationship to the now. That's your relationship to the world. That's the story that's playing in the background as your eyes see things. That's how you interpret everything. And therefore, you manifest that. That becomes what's in your life, you know? And I'm going to tell you about a guy that I know in a minute, and maybe you heard of him too, but I'll put him up here. His name's Damien Echols. I'll put him up here. And he's a guy who was in death row for 18 years for crimes he didn't commit. For 18 years, from the time he was like 18 to 30, whatever, 36 or something like that. Maybe more. And he was on death row as a child killer. So now he wasn't just in death row, he's like the worst of the low, you know, for a crime he didn't commit. He has a great book called, well, it's about spirituality, the spiritual practices that got him out of prison, called High Magic. And when I think of all the stories that he had, he grew up in a trailer home in some really backwoods town in Arkansas, and all the and so he was just like, and he looked different than everybody. We're all black, and he was into liqueur, and he was into like magic. And so basically, when these kids turned up dead, they just blamed it on him and his friends, and then they just quickly said he was a witch, and it was really just happened in America. And then he went to prison, but they made a documentary about it, and then for 18 years people knew that he was innocent, and they kept trying to get him out. So they finally did. Now, he was in a cell maybe like this big with no sewage. The sewage comes through the floor. He's a child killer. You know, he's the worst of the worst. So he's raped, he's beaten, has no hope. But yet in his mind, in that real prison, in a real prison, in the bottom of the, you know, at the bottom of the prison, where people go that you don't know what happens to them, he's down there surrounded by actual killers and the worst people in the world. And he's down there and he's meditating and he's visualizing himself as a free man. He has no health care, he has no nothing. He visualizes himself healing from wounds. He visualizes himself walking free. He attracts to himself, through this process, some of the most famous people in the world. You know, Johnny Depp, Eddie Vedder, Peter Jackson, they all come to help him. He attracts to himself a beautiful wife who's a young lawyer while he's in this cell, because he made a choice. He made a choice that I won't be like these people. I won't become this. I will focus on the reality that I want, even though he can't see it at all. There is no evidence of it. Everyone around him, there's no one like, hey, yeah, you can do it. One day you're going to walk out of here. You know, there's no one in his vicinity that there's nothing nice to look at. He has a cell. Maybe his window is this big here, and it looks at, like, you know, maybe across the way at another thing that big. So he has little ounces of sunlight coming through. To this day, I wear blue glasses all the time, you know, because his eyes are so damaged. So, but yet he visualized himself free. He visualized himself healthy. He visualized himself walking out of there. And he did. Eventually he did. Now he has 3 best-selling books, a documentary. He's famous for that, but really for being a great healer. And he's an artist and a writer, and he created himself despite being born into the lowest and then thrown even lower. So all of us here, I don't think, you know, I'm sure we all have tragic stories, but I like to tell his because I don't know one worse than that. I always would say, I said to him, and because I met him, I ended up meeting him, and I'll tell you that story. So, randomly. I said to him, I said, Jesus was only on a cross for 3 days. You were in like 18 years. And I wish I could read your book, your Bible. So now he wrote it. So not because of me, but you know, he wrote it. You know, so now you can listen to it. So, but there it is. And some people still think he's guilty. So that's your thing. Maybe he did it. I don't know. So maybe, right? I don't think so. But he has to live with that. So he chose to believe a story about himself that the whole world was telling him wasn't true. He chose to believe a story about the way the world can work despite seeing the ugliest part of the world, the ugliest kind of people. He chose to do that. Can we all do that too? If he can walk out and be a free man, if he can be born again, if he can do that, can we all do that right now? From wherever we're at, you know, wherever you stand. I know all of us want to improve all the time. So can we just take a quantum leap? Can we do that? Does it have to just be like, yeah, I improved a little bit? Or can we step into the greatest life of all time, our version of that? Can we step into that? Yes. Yes, we can. And I'll just tell you what I know about that in my process, in my path to living the greatest life of all time. It goes back to these stories. And you have to learn to let go of those stories. And I'm going to give you some tools for that. And we have to learn to embrace news stories. We have to give it to ourselves in a way that we can hear it, you know? So for example, when I was first really, I used to live, I moved to New York a long time ago to be an actor. And I went and I was doing a lot of plays, things like that. And New York, like here, is very expensive. And I don't know about the rent here, but the rent there is really insane, you know? So I was living, literally I got lucky and I got this room. It was a little room at the end of a hoarder's lair. So there's 8 rooms, just to give you an idea. There was a guy who had a rent-stabilized apartment in New York. I don't know if you have that here, but it's like a magic lease this guy got in the 70s. And he had this giant apartment. It's like, you know, we say 2,000 square feet, or just 8 rooms about the size of this room, just going down in the Upper West Side of Manhattan near Central Park. It's like really as good as it gets. And he had those 8 rooms, and he was only paying $1,200 a month. And at that time, that apartment would have been $15,000 a month. And I got one of the rooms at the end of the hall. Now, in order to get to that room, I had to walk in, and all the rooms were filled with newspapers and furniture, and one friendly hoarder would say hi to me, hi to me from time to time. So and then I had my little clean room at the end of the hall. And I was there and I was being an actor and I was doing a lot of plays, but I wasn't making too much money as being an actor, so I had other jobs doing sales and whatnot. So that was my circumstance, and often I kept trying to change my circumstance. I kept trying to say, how can I create the circumstance I want? And then I would stumble upon certain books, like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, if you've ever read that. And if you haven't, if you have read it, read it again. I think it's the best book ever written, you know, for anybody, wherever you're at in life, because it really teaches you how to be here now in a way that isn't hokey, in a way that isn't, you know, like most things about being in the now is really ethereal. You can't really touch it. That book really just lays it out, really teaches you, and without any dogma, without any religion, without, just like you can talk to everybody. Everybody needs to be talked to where they're at. And I would read his book, and I would read other spiritual books, and they were so high, you know, some of them were so like high frequency, like you can create your own reality. Anything you want to create, you're creating. And I'm like, wow, that's so inspiring. I can create my own reality. This is amazing. I'm going to create my own reality. And then I would go look at my reality where I'm walking through the hoarder's lair. He's walking around without a t-shirt, and he has a butter knife, and he's got a fat stomach, and he's scraping the dry skin off his stomach. And I would say, okay, I don't know how the fuck I created this reality. So I'd go back to my room. I'd go, and ultimately, then I would get mad, like, I'm not creating my reality. Fuck these guys, fuck these teachers, fuck these people. How can they're making this up? And then I'd get mad. And then I would resist the truth, which is that I was somehow creating my own reality. And that I still am, and that you are. And then I found this one guy who wrote this book, and he was really angry. He's an angry guy, right? But he was telling me all the same things they were saying, but he was angry. You know, it's just about, this book was about food though, like how food is changing your life. I was so pissed off about the food companies and all that, and then it really got me going. You're like, yeah, this fucking, you know, and I changed my whole diet, everything. I literally got, that guy spoke to me, whereas a girl in her Lotus outfit and her $200 yoga pants telling me to eat vegan wasn't gonna get me. But this angry guy, he got me, you know, and I changed my diet, you know, and but now I don't resonate with that guy. Now I resonate with the yoga pants girl, you know, so because I want to hang out with her. So, but really, but we have to. We're all kind of able to get messages in different ways, but the message is clear. You are creating your own reality. Whoever, maybe it hits you for me today, like, oh yeah, that guy made sense to me. That was, he unlocked one little thing for me, one little new thing, and that can be the whole thing that just sets off all the other things you already know or aren't doing or are putting together. So you have to look at yourself again and say the story that I'm telling myself about why I am where I am, wherever it is. Can I let any negative part of that story go? And how can I do it? Of course you can, and that will be for you to answer. But that's really the question. Can I let it go, and how can I do it? And really looking at it. And then I'm sure everybody here has great things going for them, and I'm sure you have some things that you, maybe other people can't see, that you feel like are a real struggle for you. And that's the part we really want to let go and step into this vision of ourselves. So when we look at the beliefs, we step into the vision. And you ask yourself really to take the time, write it down, say it to friends, say it out loud, say it every day, actually. Say it as it evolves and changes. What is the ultimate vision of your life? Your health? You know, what do you want to look like? How do you want to feel in your body? Very simple. How do I want to feel? I want to feel flexible, I want to feel agile, I want to feel radiantly alive, I want to feel like invincible in a way. I want to feel like I'm well built. I want to look sharp. I want to look however you want to look. You know, I just like to look the way that I'm looking. That's why I look this way. So, yeah. I used to look a different way. I'm serious. Yeah. So you really got to think about that, you know. So your relationship to your work. You know, what's your mission? What's your purpose? What's your, you know, what do you want to be working on? And maybe you don't know exactly what it is, and maybe it's very general, but that's okay, and that's great. So be general. But what is it you want to be doing every day? What is it you want to be doing in the world? It can be so many things. It can be anything. So what is that thing? So you ask yourself that. Okay, what is my ultimate vision of that? And this is important because most of the time we're just looking at what's in front of us and we're just keep dealing with, okay, I got these 20 papers I got to go through, I got this thing, I got to pay this, I got to do that, I got to meet this, and we lose track of the ultimate vision. But if we put the vision first and foremost above the 20 papers and above meeting these people and above the push-ups and above everything, we put that first and foremost, then we can really just basically start walking into it. Just basically start seeing ourselves as it. Seeing myself as a speaker in Zurich, right? Seeing myself here talking to you. Seeing myself not just talking to women and not just talking to men, but talking to men and women. Seeing myself being here relaxed and comfortable and flowing. Good. Oh wait, I'm actually here? Oh fuck, really? Oh shit. Oh, I didn't even shower. Okay, no. I did shower, I'm joking. Okay. I did. Yesterday. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, so really vision the body, the way you want to feel in that body. Really vision your work, your purpose. And more than that, I want you to vision, and what I found to be helpful is visioning and feeling what it feels like to have the purpose, feeling what it feels like to have achieved something. Because some of us know very specifically. Like, I want to go all around the world, and I want to speak to people and meet new people and connect with people and share what I know with people. Okay, I feel that's one of the specific things I know that I want to do, so I can really feel that out. But there's been times when I didn't know. But if I can but I started to just work on the essence of of who I am and what I want to feel, and then circumstances start presenting themselves to you to live that feeling out, to live the feeling out, because the feeling is really what we're going for. For example, if you're in here, if I'm in here and I feel miserable and unhappy and this and that, well, that sucks. Well, what's the point? You know, what's the point? Another day, another dollar? No, right? So the point is you want to be in all these circumstances that you want to be in and I want to be in, because we want to feel good. We want to feel like we're living the greatest life of all time. Of all time. Not just that time or this time, but every time from here on out, the greatest one ever. Even if, not that everyone has to write about it or anything. So what else is there to vision out? Your relationships, your friendships. And when you really look at your friends and your family, but really your friends, the people you choose to know, and your lovers, how are you interacting with them? What are your conversations like? Are they actually meaningful? Are they actually fulfilling to you? Are they actually the best friends that the world has ever known? Are they those people? Because people have those people. And you know what's cool? Is if you feel like you don't, you can. And you will meet them. Maybe you'll meet them today. Maybe you'll meet them right here. You know, it only takes a few good friends. One's important, you know? So, but it's like, do I have those? And when I looked back at certain points in my life, I wasn't eating well. I wasn't eating the best diet of all time at all. And I was feeling the effects of that, you know? Which would be like, you know, I'm not that I'm a nutritionist, but I'll say this. When you eat low frequency, low energy food, you generally manifest that. So your food is really like your first thing that you have a choice over. So bringing in anything that grows close to a tree is good, you know, or on a tree. Anything that's close to nature, even if it's, you know, I'm not getting into veganism or this or that, but even if you're eating flesh, yeah, even if you've killed an animal to prepare your meal. Now, you know, that you want that animal to be as close to nature as possible, you know, and that, rather than most, like in America, I don't know about here, but in America, all the meat is just poisoned with antibiotics and pesticides and chemicals, and then even the animals live in situations where it's just, you know, they're living in a fear situation, so when they get killed, they just are pure, the emotion of fear is in them. Adrenaline, and then people eat that. That's what you're eating. You're eating all of that. So we don't think about that, but that's real. And so I'm saying if you're eating meat or fish or whatever, you want to make sure it was living a happy life, and then you ate it, and it wasn't eating antibiotics and pesticides, you know, because you're eating that. So, and then you manifest as that. So food is something we ingest, and then it goes through us, and then it comes back out. And I don't mean just in number two, I mean in the way that you manifest in the world. The way you look, the way you feel, the way you act, the thoughts you think, literally. So food, really, if you ever feel anxious or depressed, I generally attribute it to food first. A lack of water and food, and then second, thought, because food actually is helping create these automatic negative thinking. Alcohol is food. Cigarettes are food. Drugs are food. Anything you ingest. So then, of course, the people that we're surrounding ourselves with. So if you're, for example, have you ever been in like a bad romantic relationship, one where you were fighting a lot and you just weren't compatible, and you loved the person for whatever reason, but every time you would get together, you would just like get into a horrible fight, and your whole aura, your whole energy would be shaken. Have you ever done this? Yes, I just did it this morning. No, I did not this morning, but no. Yeah, but I certainly have done. I've done a lot, and literally, you go from, you know, maybe you're all the way up here, and then all of a sudden you're way down. You're like, your whole, every part of you becomes, you know, people. You've ever heard these stories of people like having a family, and then there's like a murder-suicide. The husband and wife, one of them kills each other and kills himself. Now, those people loved each other, but they went down that hard. They went from here to all the way down there in a moment, and then in that moment they lose it. You know. Not that we're all on that level, but we all are capable of it because they were just people. And when we surround ourselves with people we're not compatible with, or we don't feel listened to or heard and understood, we end up walking around that way in the world, and we're not really living our greatest life of all time, because really one of the most important things we can do is have amazing relationships, amazing friendships. And I really think beyond all money, beyond any great job, beyond any great thing, at the end of the day, the most important thing you will attain are your friends. Those relationships will be the most important thing and valuable thing in your life. Your friends, your lovers, your intimate relationships are the most important thing, which is really what we're talking about today, which is connection. Your ability to connect on every level, and how deeply you can connect and be that person. I want to go back to when I was being an actor. I was doing all these plays, and I was getting, you know, I had a degree in psychology from a good college, so I could always get a good job anywhere. Like, so I would get these sales jobs at Fortune 100 companies where I'd be like outside, and I'd be either going to a doctor's office and pushing drugs to them, or one time I worked for Philip Morris, and I was like selling them like the contracts to how they promote all the stuff that kills people, right? So I was doing that job, but it was really in a great area. It was right in, you know, where all the plays were. So I was literally like be rehearsing a play during the day, and then my boss would call me and he'd say, "Where are you?" "I'm on the corner of 23rd and 10th. I'd be like, "I'm 2 blocks away." And I'd run out of the thing, and I'd go over and I'd roll up my sleeve, and I'd immediately act like I was Tom Cruise, and I'd say, "Hey Jim, what's up? Good to see you. Yeah, just taking care of this, you know, down here," right? And immediately I'd go into what Tom Cruise would, how this guy would, because that guy's alive, right? Maybe you don't like him, but he's like, "What's up?" And he really looks you in the eye and makes you feel special. Right? Yeah. So I wonder, because a lot of times when I wasn't doing that act, I would just be like, "Hey, what's up?" You know, yeah. You know, when I was just being me, I wasn't really looking people in the eye. I wasn't really taking the moment as special. I was too busy scrutinizing myself in the moment and not being here. And you know, and even being with my friends, was I really being? As I would often just be a sort of a guarded version of myself, keeping me here, so you can get in, but not too far, you know? And when you're being with your lovers, are you really completely opening yourself up and being vulnerable? And oftentimes, you know, often with relationships, we don't really be vulnerable, we just be neurotic, you know, and that's our version of vulnerability, you know, like showing our neuroses, which no one likes, you know, and usually ends the relationship. You know? So, but vulnerability is being open and really listening and being okay. Like me, I'm a very funny person, right? I can be very funny, and therefore I could literally live my whole life like that. And there's other layers of vulnerability underneath there where I have to, you know, stop and just be with somebody and like there's always this guy. Whatever you say, there's at least 6 jokes that pop in. Now I got to breathe through that, and then actually listen to, you know, what's going on with you, or listen to what we're saying, and not just be funny man, you know. So some of us have different ways that we connect, that work, but then how deep do we go? So for me, that's a way that I've always avoided going deep. Just keep it light and funny, you know. So maybe ask yourself, how do I avoid going deep with my friends? Now, I know some of you guys brought your friends here, but I'll ask, do you guys feel like you have the greatest friends of all time? Yes? It's amazing. So good. Yes? Good. You can tell. Everyone has smiles on their face who has great friends, right? Yeah. That's good. But I don't, but for me, friends are ever changing in the sense that we're either growing together or we're growing apart, because you're growing, we're growing now. So as we grow, will you grow with me? I don't know. Will you grow in the same direction as me? We don't know. So we always want to be reaching out to new friends and making new contacts and making new connections and bringing that authenticity, that genuineness, that lack of agenda with us, where we're really listening and hearing people, and we're listening and hearing them for their sake and our own sake, so we know who we're, who's in our life, So friendship is an ever-evolving, ever-growing thing. And some of us have friends since we're 4 or 4 months, and all the way till, whenever. And some of us have, yes?
Don't you feel sometimes too widespread in friendship?
Well, I mean, no, I hear what you're saying, yeah. I mean, no, because you only can be with the one or, whoever you're with at the moment, you know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying you have to have 1 billion friends. Yeah. I'm just saying, the people in your life should be, you want to have those really intimate relationships. And you can have lots of friends. Like I certainly know a lot of people, but then I only really have a very close group of friends now. But when I was in high school, I had a different close group of friends. We had different interests. One thing was we all lived at home, so we couldn't leave, right? And then we all liked to do the same sports, and we were in the same school, in the same spot, but then we left there. Now I have one friend from high school still, right? Now I have one guy I stay in touch with, and we talk. I see him twice a year. And then I was in college, and then I had a different group of friends, right? Different interests, now it's party time and learning time, and now we all speak the same language, and so now there's that. And from there, I have one friend that I stay in touch with, and I see him twice a year, right? And he lives a block from me, right? But we have 2 different lives. He went into finance, and he has married and has 3 kids. So that's his thing. We're great friends, but we don't really have much in common right now. If I get married and have 3 kids, I'll give him a call, Because every time he invites me over, I'm like, this is fucking boring. Fuck, right? But if it's your own, then it's different, right? Yeah. So so I don't feel spread thin in that sense. Now, because I know what you're saying. There's some people, and I know people like that. They're like, all right, I'm going out Monday, I'm going out Tuesday, I'm going out Wednesday, I'm going with this friend and that friend. But that's not how I am. But some people are like that, and some people really thrive in that environment. And then some people use it as a way not to get too deep with anybody. So it's, these are questions you have to ask yourself. But it is good to have more than one friend, and it is good to be a good friend, and it is good to have good friends and good support and people you can really talk to. Because if you look at it in a romantic sense, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatnot, those relationships teach us more about ourselves than almost anything. Because now you really get intimate with somebody, and this is where all these, like if I'm just hanging with Jonas, and then I'm like, hey, he's cool, and then I go back to New York, we got all good vibes. Now if Jonas and I move in together, and he turns into a girl, and we move into together, and we fall in love together, and now we're going to have a huge fight, at one point. And then there's all this new stuff's going to happen, and there's going to be all kinds of issues that are going to arise, and jealousies, and boundary settings, and we're going to come to deeper understandings about ourselves. So we can hope that every relationship that we've ever had, or are having, that we're really learning from and growing from, so that we can attract a better relationship for ourselves than we've ever had, and that we can be a better partner to somebody else than we've ever been. And I can just look at my own life. I know I used to break up with a girl, and then I'd always have to vilify her. She's so bad, she's a narcissist. Everybody's ex is like a narcissist. You ever see that? The narcissist. When someone's going through a breakup on Facebook, they're posting all these things about the narcissistic personality disorder. It's always that bad, right? But really, the reality is you just weren't compatible, usually, and maybe once in a while you run into a real sociopath, but generally, it's just you guys aren't really compatible. You weren't in the same place. You didn't know how to communicate with each other, whatever it is. So generally, it's that. And then the question is do I grow from it? What can I learn from it? What do I know about myself from it? And how can I be a better friend? How can I be a better lover? How can I be more honest in all my relationships, more authentic? And maybe you've done this in your relationships. I have. Basically withholding my true desires or my true thoughts so that it didn't lose the person that I had. So for example, I once had a girlfriend. Yes, can you believe it? I once had a girlfriend, and her and I were having a great time, but at one point things started to change, and I wanted to tell her how I felt, but I noticed if I said any criticism at all, she would really get upset. So I would just hold it in, and then hold it in, and I'd like go into the bathroom and bite my tongue. And then the more that happened, the actual problem became I wasn't being authentic anymore. Now it's just like lying so that I don't lose this person, so I don't lose this great circumstance that I'm now in, that I really wanted, and I'm so happy to have, at least the idea of it, you know, and which is really what it was, and or what it was a month ago and what it isn't now, you know. So when that happened, ultimately I lost myself first, and I alienated myself, and then I of course alienated her anyway, and I lost her anyway. And so now we are great friends now, which is amazing, really. So and it's a big lesson learned. Am I being authentic in all my relationships? And I know a lot of men oftentimes will get into relationships, and maybe women too, you know, I know men pretty well, so, but a lot of men will get into relationships and they don't actually want to be in a relationship, but they think the girl wants to be in a relationship, so they get into that kind of relationship that's just you and me and that's it. And then they get into that, but they're always constantly saying, oh, I wish I could date this girl, I wish I could do that, I wish I could do, and then of course she feels that, and that's going to ruin the relationship anyway. Instead, now we live in a great time where you can just be honest with people and say exactly where you're at in your life, and this is where I'm at, and if you actually really like hanging out with someone and you don't want to be in a exclusive relationship, then you can tell them, and that's where I'm at. And somebody will say, I don't like that, and I'll see you around. And somebody will say, I don't like that, but you're the most honest person I met in the last 10 years. I'll hang out for a while, see what happens. And then usually it ends anyway. But you're honest, right? You're honest, because I don't know about that open relationship stuff. You guys, if anyone has a good story of it working, let me know. I do know a couple of people it works for. But you're being honest, and that's where you're at. And you're being honest maybe about how you feel about that person. You know, like, I feel this way. I like hanging out with you, I like having sex with you, but I also feel like I want to travel the world and meet new people, whatever. So, and that's what you should do. You should be that bold and that honest in your relationships to be authentic. So, going back to the vision of our health, the vision of our purpose, the vision of our relationships, friends and lovers, the vision of all of our desires, whatever they are, whatever your desire is, whatever you want to be living out in this life, it all starts here. So how can we do that every day? Every day we practice doing things, we practice beating ourselves up so that something good will happen, but we don't practice actually seeing the movie we want to live in. We practice watching other people's movies and other news stories, all other things going on in the world, every fucking thing they can throw at you, we practice seeing all that shit. But do we ever just actually watch the movie we want to live in and feel it? And even if you did it 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, if you did it all throughout the day, that would be incredible. I once saw Larry David walking down the street. You know Larry David, he created Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm. It's like, you ever heard of those shows, Seinfeld? You never heard of Seinfeld? Really? Well, anyway, they're famous TV shows, like the most famous. He's the most rich person in Hollywood, but he was like, we used to live on like a street corner, right? So, but I saw him walk, and he's very like Woody Allen kind of. So I saw him walking down the street once in New York, and this is how he was walking. Like he was walking, but he was really enjoying something that I didn't see. Yeah? Yeah. Right? Now, there's another guy, a guy I know, a friend of mine, who created the Blue Man Group. If you ever heard of the Blue Man Group? Yes. So this guy, Chris Wink, we live in the same neighborhood, and I'll run into him fairly frequently. And this is how he walks down the street. He's wherever he's at. I mean, if you've ever seen the Blue Man Group, like that's a powerful imagination that created that. He's not walking down the street like this. Oh man, I'm not good enough. This fucking sucks. Fucking cab driving asshole. All right, he's not doing that. I mean, maybe he did and I didn't see it, but in general, I know for sure he's not living his life like that. He's a visionary. He's a visionary. Now, he's a very powerful visionary. So powerful that we all even know his name. And we've all smiled when we said his name. Wow. My friend, Brandon Stanton, I don't know if you know Humans of New York. Does anyone know that blog? Photo blog? I'm going to tell you him. I was telling him exactly what I'm telling you. We often hang out together, and we were hanging out, and I was saying, you know, anyone I know who's really successful and living a great life is a great visionary. And now he himself is a great visionary, but he's a regular guy, like a regular person. You can just talk to him, and you know, you wouldn't even think that he's got these other superpowers going on, you know. So, and he does, yeah. So, because I know, like, we'll often go to this thing. There's this thing in New York called the Russian Turkish bathhouse. And yeah, I know it sounds weird, but it's co-ed, you know. And you know, so we'll go and you hang out and you sweat and you go in the cold pool, whatever. And then there'll be some weird people in there, and I always look at those weird people and I start going, you know, like, you know, right away my thought is, ugh. And then every time he's always making conversations with them, getting to know him, and I'm like, oh, it's actually a nice person, I see. And so he's that, because he goes into, you know, he's empathetic, very amazing powers of empathy. But anyway, I was telling him a story about my ex-girlfriend. My ex-girlfriend was a model, or she is a model, but when she was my girlfriend, she was a supermodel. You said, you get it? Because I was telling her. Yeah. Okay, no. So that's an ego thing, right? So, but anyway, the point is she grew up in a very small town in Ohio, basically low income, and she was the youngest of 6, and when she was like 12, she saw this TV show called America's Top Model. And she was like, I kind of look like those girls. And then she started walking around her house, you know, doing like whatever, the runway stuff. And then she started thinking, I think I look better than those girls. And then she would walk through the mall like she was on the runway. And then one day, when she was 16, she was walking through the mall like she was on the runway, and some guys stopped her. And 2 weeks later, she was on the runway for Calvin Klein in Paris. So from the smallest to that. But she had visioned it so many times in her mind that she was able to take that great, I mean, you can imagine being 16 and being like in that kind of spotlight, that from nothing, you know, no, you weren't like, you were just in a high school in Ohio. So I was just telling him that story. That was just one of people I know, and it, like, I always was impressed by how powerful, because that's how I see her success, not like, oh, she's pretty, she got it, but that she had a certain, that she put it out there. And of course she is pretty to people that take pictures. So then I said that to him, and he said, well, you know, and he lived maybe a half mile from there, whatever, like a 30-minute walk. And he walked there. It was a nice evening. He walked there, and he said, well, you know, my whole way over here, I was imagining myself being nominated for an Emmy for this series I just made. He made a series. That's what he thought about his whole way over there. And I was thinking about what I had thought about my whole way over there. It was like shitty things, you know, like the news. I was like reading too much news, you know. I was thinking about these news stories, and this guy said that, and that had nothing to do with me at all. I mean, I don't always do that, but I was really looking at that. And he has a great life. Besides being successful, all those people have great lives. They have fulfilling lives, fulfilling relationships, fulfilling relationship with their friends, with their families, with their work, with their health, because they vision it, they see it, and they play it. And when they walk around, and when they sit down, and when they close their eyes, they take the time. Some of them it comes very easily, and some of us have to actually do it, practice it. Start with 1 minute at a time. You know what I mean? Just 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 1 second. Really. Because our brains are like on autopilot, and it's usually playing negative things. And usually the same negative things over and over. It's not even interesting, you know, it's just constantly, you know, same shit, and those thoughts and those feelings that you're having over and over are creating you as you are here in front of us, you as you are to you as you are in the world. The good news is that's what's doing it. Whatever it is, whether it's awesome as it can be, or it's not as great as it can be, that's what's doing it. My thoughts and my feelings, and I can choose to create something new. And I can practice having a vision. And there's tons and tons of evidence that having an ultimate vision and replaying it over and over, whether you close your eyes and do it, and we're going to do that in a little while. We're going to meditate a little bit if you don't mind. And we're going to visualize something so that you can kind of, and it's something you can do on your own. That you can do that, and then you can leave your house and walk around with that vision in your mind. And the belief that, okay, I can't see my perfect partner, I don't see my perfect job, but I see it here, and I feel it here. And you can walk around and you keep saying that, and you have to be delusional even. And it's okay, I'll be a little delusional. It's not there, I don't see it. But the reality is there's so many things we're not seeing that are right here. You know, like all of our Wi-Fi, you know. And, you know, you're not seeing it, but it's moving through your brain right now, frying your brain. Yeah. Yeah. We don't see so many things, but also maybe we don't, it's not obvious to see, but we're all made of energy. And if someone walks in the room and they have really bad energy, like, and they're sitting in a chair, like, you know, and they're going to sit next to you, you know, they're wearing clothes, they have, you know, they're just like everybody else with sneakers on. But you know that their vibes is bad. You feel it. It's there. It's real. And if someone comes in and they're like, you might be like, ah, that guy's weird, but he means well. You're not gonna be scared of him, you know. So, but good vibes, right? Or just like someone's just chill, you know. Or if someone's just like you're talking to them and they're just like, you know, that's real. You don't, I mean, right? That's as real as it gets. So you have to understand that we all, every one of us, not just those people I mentioned, every single one of us is a very powerful creator. And we're creating our own reality by how we're feeling, by the vision we're having. And I say more how you're feeling than what you're thinking, because thoughts, like trying to control your thoughts would be like trying to control, you know, the wind or something. You can't. You just got to let them be, you know. Let them do what they do. But don't attach yourselves to them. Yeah. So, does what I'm saying make some kind of sense? Pretty simple, right? Does anyone ever feel like, you know, I'm sure everyone here has read all kinds of Buddhist type things, but does anyone ever feel like they're in that, stuck in that perpetual state of, you know, focusing on the past in a regretful way and worried about the future to come and not being here? Does anyone ever feel like they're just kind of either there or there but not here? Yeah. And that's the analytical mind. And that's what's in our way of just living the greatest life of all time. And it's very simple. It really is. All these things have been identified. They're identified. And there's somebody that will say it to you in a way that makes you say, yeah, okay. And the only thing to do is find where that information is and work it and practice it. So there's knowing it, because you know it, you hear it, you're like, yeah, that's right, of course it's true. But then there's practicing it and embodying it. And I have a way that I do that called the social practice. And I teach people how to be social and how to connect with other people anywhere and everywhere, at any time. And that requires you to be as present as possible. As present as can be. So it's a way to be in the now. It's a way to be connected. It's a way to connect to yourself. It's a way to express yourself. It's a way to communicate. So this social practice, through that practice, it teaches us connection. It teaches us to love and accept ourselves. It teaches us to understand other people and really connect with other people. And it challenges us all day long to transcend our ego. You know, our ego in the sense of this identity of me to other people. You know, it's so easy to get, you know, it's very easy to get into small arguments with people at any given time. You could just do it all day. We could like walk from here to the center and get in 10, no problem, you know, just easy, you know. Like I actually found, you know, living in New York, now you times it by, what, 20 or whatever, there's 9 million people. And I found, I'll be like, I started asking myself this question, like, who am I gonna make my enemy this morning? You know what I mean? Like, I just gotta go from here and get a matcha, and by the time I got there, I got like 2 enemies already, like 2 people that we almost got into a fight or whatever, you know. So just being aware of, you know, that. So yeah, so the main thing is about the vision is that we can practice that, and the social practice I was telling you about is really just a way of going out and making new friends and lovers, is the result that could happen, but the actual practice is like being a musician. You play music because it feels good. You play music to express yourself. But if you just play music to play in front of 1 million people, and you're not happy with music until you're in front of 1 million people and they all say you're amazing, then playing music is no fun. You know, so you'll never actually get there, you know, because you'll be frustrated by day 2 because all you can think about is where's the audience, you know, and why don't they call me God, you know. And it's a similar idea if you walk up to a stranger and you say hi and they look at you like you're not God, you're just someone who's annoying me. That's like, you know, you could easily say, well, I don't want to do this. It feels really bad because I'm God, and you're looking at me like I'm not. So, you know, what's the problem here, right? So I'm not doing this practice anymore. But that's why I love the social practice, because it challenges me to go out and connect with people beyond my analytical mind. It challenges me, and this is however you decide to do this, to tune into my natural instincts, my natural desires that are born of nature, born of infinite intelligence that we're all part of, like suns rising and setting, or the sun. I don't know how many suns there are, but on this planet the sun rises and sets, and then birds fly south for the winter, and flowers bloom, and bees take pollen from one to another, one flower to another, and the world goes round, and boys talk to girls, and girls talk to boys, and people fall in love. That's all part of nature. That's our natural instincts. But somehow most humans have just completely gotten way disconnected from that. And then just to do what's natural, we have all these stories around. I'm being bad, I'm being creepy, I feel inadequate, now's not the time. That's like the sun coming up in the morning and saying, now's not the time, I don't feel like it. You know, it's like the bees saying, you know what, my antenna's all fucked up, I'm not, you know, I don't look right, I'm not going to get the pollen today. I'm not going to do it, you know. That's what it's like. So imagine if we could align with our natural instinct and tune in to our natural desire and transcend our hyper-analytical mind. To land in this place that's completely detached from outcome, called the flow, where you're in a flow state.